Okay, so I'm Dr. Frankie Wood Black, and you guys are in General Physics 2, which means that we have a routine Zoom meeting for the lecture on Wednesdays and Fridays. So, how I work my class, and we'll go through this here pretty quick. And then I'm also going to give you a tour of the Blackboard because several of you are in both Blackboard and in Canvas, and there are a couple of differences if you have classes in Canvas. But we are using Blackboard here at Northern Oklahoma College. I do need to tell you all that Northern Oklahoma College is an attendance taking institution, which is a little different than Oklahoma State, but I do not use how people log into Zoom as my attendance, partially because I don't necessarily see the right names. I've had folks in the past log in from sorority houses and fraternities. So you've got two or three people on the Zoom, and it's just difficult for me to do that. So how I maintain attendance is by making sure you fill out the weekly survey. Not all weeks will have a weekly survey because there will be weekly items that you have to do as assignments, and I will use those assignments as attendance. So if there's an issue or things like that, I want to make sure that folks are aware that I do record. I do monitor how many times people get into Blackboard to kind of help with things. So I do take care of those items. So let's kind of dive into Blackboard a little bit. First of all, I prefer, if at all possible, to go ahead and use the messaging feature in Blackboard. And that's how you can email me and message me directly. If you use that messaging feature, then I know exactly which class you're in, and it helps me find what your question is about. I teach General Physics 2, I teach General Physics 1, and I have a number of other classes. So it's hard for me to figure out exactly who's doing what, and it's easier if you use that messaging feature. The calendar feature in Blackboard 2 or the Blackboard Ultra is really good. And I have tried very hard to try to make sure that all of the assignments show up in the calendar. You can do it either by schedule, and if you see in the schedule, there'll be a dot on the items when there are due dates in there. So if we kind of look at other ones, you'll see other due dates. You can also see due dates that will pop up here. But one of the things that you're going to notice is that as we go back here, is that the WebAssign assignments may or may not. Yes, they actually are showing up in Blackboard. Do be careful about that. You've got some older ones. If it's got a due date of 2025, don't sweat it. I haven't opened up everything, and therefore I haven't changed all the due dates. So if it's before the semester started, it's not due yet. So I do have a lot of questions that people will ask that. But I do have a getting started pre-work assignment that is due on Saturday, and there will be a quiz eventually due up there. But you can use that calendar to help you out. This is the student view, so should be exactly what you're seeing on your screen. You have your book and your online homework. This link will take you directly to WebAssign. We have done this as inclusive access. So this will take you to your entire WebAssign, not just the individual problems or items. This will get you to your ebook. So that's your ebook, and then you've got your technical support and the Student Dashboard Center. So we'll come back to WebAssign here in just a second. I have a folder that outlines some instructor information. This tells you just a little bit about myself so that you have that. This gives you a little bit about where my office hours are. But for most of you, since you're a lot of you are OSU students, what I have is a standing Zoom at 10:30 in the morning, and you can use that Zoom office hours link, and it will connect you directly to my Zoom, and I will have my Zoom open at 10:30 in the morning. You may have to wait a little bit because it's just like being admitted into class, but I am in there. But if you need to schedule time outside of that 10:30 time frame, go ahead and use my schedule office hours link, and it links directly to my calendar. Email me or message me if you're having issues, and the sooner you ask a question, the better. One of the things about physics is that we all have a tendency to deal with different topics differently. And even if you're not understanding something or feel a little miffed about something, or maybe I didn't explain it well, ask the question early. And that way you don't get frustrated. And if you have a question, somebody else is likely to have that question. And then we will go over those in class as well. So that's my instructor information. Here's the Zoom link for class. Here's also the Zoom link for my office hours. We'll come back to the syllabus here in just a second. In this folder, I have just a bunch of helpful hints, helpful ideas. But one of the things in here, if you're an Oklahoma State student and you want to get your NOC forwarded to your Oklahoma State account, here's how to forward your NOC email. So you have that and you can utilize that. But this is just a bunch of helpful tips and course navigation. If you haven't already done so, please introduce yourself. That's how I'm taking attendance this week, is making sure that everyone introduces themselves so that I have a little bit of background as to what people are studying, why you're taking this course. So that helps me with my examples that I use in the class. So that will get you some things there. I do use AI. I use AI to generate images. I use AI to help a lot of different things. So I try to practice what I preach. When you are turning in assignments that are not WebAssign or not your labs, or your labs, you want to make sure you reference in your labs, and we'll talk about that here in a second. I do want you to include references, and depending on how the tests are running, I make you do a disclosure that it's your own work. And if you have used references, I want to make sure you use references, and we will talk through that as we go through. But I do have some disclaimers and references and things like that. If I've run across, excuse me, if I run across some interesting things, this is interesting videos. Like, for example, this is the hidden science of fireworks. I will use that just to add for other information. Each module that we go through this semester will have its own working module. We're going to start off with simple harmonic motion and sound. If you had me for Physics 1, or had anybody for Physics 1, you know that at the end of the semester at Physics 1, you will have a comprehensive exam, because there is no way around it in Physics 1. It will be a comprehensive exam. Physics 2 is a little different. In Physics 2, we're going to do sound and waves. We then will go into electrostatics. We'll talk about electricity and do a lot of things with electricity. Then we'll get into magnetism, and we'll do things with magnetism. And then we will do things with optics. They don't necessarily flow together like they do in Physics 1. All your topics build, and from Physics 1, they all build on each other. These are a little more different in that respect. So there is no comprehensive exam in my class in Physics 2. We typically will have 4 to 5 exams, and that's just based on the topics that we're doing and where we are. I don't want us to go too long between exams, but typically you will have an exam over waves and sound. You'll have an exam dealing with electricity. You'll have an exam dealing with magnetism. And then the final exam is dealing with optics only. So that will help you out. So for some people, Physics 2 is easier than Physics 1. For others, Physics 2 is a little bit more challenging. It's just that we're dealing with different topics and we're looking at things a little differently. So just be aware of that. And if you get frustrated with sound, think of that when we get to electrostatics, it just might be a little easier. So just because we will be doing different topics. I have a useful tools box in here. In here, I have the CAM scanner. If you are submitting things that aren't directly, like questions in Blackboard or through WebAssign, and you're actually submitting an extra document, I do request that it be a PDF. And if you use your student email when you register for CAM Scanner, you get the professional version free. There is a free version all the way around, but the professional version is really nice, and it makes your cell phone into a scanner. I have how to have a PDF read aloud. I how to do natural reader as a browser extension. I have help with graphing. I have how to obtain Microsoft Office products or your Google products. Some people do not like our textbook that we use, the Searway textbook. So I have also provided you with a link to an open resource textbook. And this is the OpenStax textbook. And I have provided you with an OpenStax math support and college algebra and trigonometry. So if we get into a topic with the math that you want to go back and review, you at least have access to that. I've got you a video analysis tool. I've got tutors.com. I have how to cite. And so I have a variety of just helpful, useful tools that you might want to use throughout the class. So all of that is there. I have under learning resources, I also provide some other things, providing some of the other aspects, some of the same things, just because it's easier. Some people think about learning resources versus useful tools. So I do have those in different places. I will provide you all links to my YouTube channels. I have a YouTube channel for general physics, for Physics 1. I have a YouTube channel for Physics 2. I have a general YouTube channel for Physics 1 and 2, meaning that it will be both engineering physics as well as general physics. But I've taught this, and some days I explain it better than others. So if the video that you're working with doesn't work as well for you, you've got access to all of my YouTube channel videos. You will have that. And so I have those things there. So you've got a variety of places to get extra resources. One of the things that a lot of students will say is that I provide you with a whole lot of stuff. Well, I do. I don't expect you to look and review everything. Some people need more help than others. Sometimes I explain it better than others. And so I will tell you what I expect for you to look at and expect for you to do, but I do provide you with a lot of extra helps because I just know that sometimes, what I say will click with somebody and what I say will click with somebody else. So I'm not expecting you to watch every video. If you were to do that, you'd only be watching physics videos for the entire semester. So that's one of the things that are there. We do offer tutor.com, and then you have links to the bookstore and your registered blasts, and your academic support and your student Blackboard support. This is considered an in-person class. So you are working with me because we are doing synchronized lectures, but it is live. There is not a physical classroom. We are doing this strictly live. It allows us to do some really cool things, which I like, But because we're considered in person, you do not have to set up with the testing center to do a test through the testing center. The only time I've ever had to set up a special test is if somebody had to deal with a special issue that they were just trying to deal with as sort of the test. All of my tests will be through Blackboard. They will all be open for at least 24 hours, except for the final. The final is a timed final, and it is during the scheduled time in the final schedule. So be aware of that. I know that with OSU students and some of the students that are in different classes, we may need to make arrangements for an alternate time, but I stick to the final schedule for the final. Now, just because the exam will be open for 24 hours, the exams will be timed. That means once you open it, you have to finish it. But I usually have all exams open for at least 2 hours. So once you start it, you have 2 hours to complete the exam. And I do require that you submit your work. That's right off the top. If you do not submit your work, there's a 10% loss for the exam. So, because the exams will be multiple choice, but I do want to see your work. And now, not all questions will require work. Some of them are conceptual questions, and so I know they won't have that work, but that's how I'm going to use did you do your own work, is that you must submit your work. And we'll talk more about that as we get to our exams. And sometimes you have to draw. So that's just one of those issues that sometimes you've got to draw. So that's how I do those exams. So that kind of gets you that overview. So let's start with the syllabus. I'll stop here and see if there are any questions. I do use the chat, so you are welcome to type into chat if I'm talking too fast. Also, I do transcribe, so if you want to put your captions on, you can do that. And if anybody wants me to post the transcriptions of the lectures, just let me know and I will post them. I've posted them in the past. I don't always do it unless somebody wants them. So I do that. Also, I'll actually show you how to do it at one point, but I have been going in and uploading my videos and getting summaries for the videos so that you all have summaries so you know exactly where to go for, to find out a piece of information. So you're not having to scan through or scroll through the entire video. Don't typically do that with this introduction video, but I do it with my lecture videos. So that, if you're wanting to see when an example was done or you're wanting to see a particular concept, you'll have those timestamps in the video. So that's one thing that I do. And I also do on-the-fly editing, which means I have a separate announcements video every day, every class period, just to remind people what's due, where things are, that kind of stuff. And then I have my lecture portion. So those are two generally separate ones. So here's the syllabus. I have provided the additional course policies as a separate document. In the additional course policies, you're going to find the APA writing items. You're going to find if I'm making you do a statement of your work, there is that statement of work. I have my AI rules in there. Again, we will be using AI in the class, and I make sure that people reference it. So that is in there. I have discussion board rules in there, although this class we don't typically use graded discussions, so that's not as a big a deal, but those are all in there. But for what you all want to know, let's get to that part there. There are my office hours. In here, you've got our textbook, which is inclusive access. We will be using WebAssign. I also have provided you OpenStax. We're going to use Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets, and we will be using the Firefox application for a variety of things so that you do have that as well. My course policies, a couple of things that I do want to highlight. Blackboard is talking to WebAssign this semester, so that's good. Although I think I've had a couple of you already notice, I think it's doing live updating of grades at the end of 24 hours. So look for the due dates because you still have an opportunity to work on your assignments. Even though a grade is showing up in Blackboard, I am going off of the due dates in WebAssign. So that will get you I think one of the first assignments was due later and I was seeing it in one of my classes. I don't know if it was this class. So I think right now WebAssign is doing live updates in Blackboard, but don't sweat it until after the due date for those things. Once a grade is posted, okay, or past the due date, then I'm asking that if there is a dispute about the grade to do it within 14 days. I don't want to get it to the end of the semester and have somebody say, well, hey, that assignment at the beginning of the semester, I really got X. No, let's take care of it right away because I don't want to be dealing with that stuff at the end of the semester. And partially, it's hard to prove if you had a technical problem. If you come back at the end of the semester and there was a technical issue, it's much easier to prove very quickly up front. One of the things that I do, I will not accept that my computer died, my internet went down, any of those things in the last 24 hours of an assignment due. Okay? So that is not an excuse for having your assignment late. I don't accept late work. There's a reason that I will not accept that as a technical excuse because I actually offer extra credits, which is built into WebAssign. So anything that is in WebAssign, except for quizzes are not the case. Anything into WebAssign, if you do it 48 hours in advance, and that's answer by answer, it doesn't have to be the whole assignment. So if you do parts A and B of a A, B, C, D problem, you get the extra credit for part A and B if it's done within 48 hours ahead of the due date. So that's where the extra credit is built in. I do that for two reasons. One, it behooves you to start your physics problems early because we need dwell time when we're working problems. Physics problems are like puzzles. Sometimes you get the puzzle right away. Sometimes it takes you a couple of days to think through the puzzle. And so that's what we really want to do is we want to make sure that you have that dwell time. And I give you a benefit if you get it done 48 hours in advance. So be aware of that. Our institutional policy is that we do require 75% attendance, but I do take attendance by working through your assignments. And we have our typical policies. My grades in this class, I use a different grading system. It's 87.5 to 100 is an A, 75 to 87.4 is a B, and I will go to 3 significant figures. So be aware of that. But I do a little broader grading scale. So that's always helpful. So nobody panic. I do post, it's weighted, and you will see your percentage posted. I'm not 100% sure I have it set up for this class yet, but it will be by the end of the week. But you will see your running percentage total. Homework is 30% of the grade. Quizzes are 25% of the grade. The laboratory is 20% of the grade, and exams are 25% of the grade. The final is not weighted any differently than the other exams because we are doing topical type exams. So those are in there, and you've got a general idea of the kind of flow of the class. Now that will change as we go through the semester. I am the division chair, so there are times when I've got to be at meetings. But I typically, when I'm at meetings, that's going to be your exam day. So I'm going to tell you right now, your sound exam is going to be on January the 30th. Will be your first exam over sound and waves. I think that's right. Yeah, that was right. The 30th, because I will be traveling to an American Chemical Society meeting that day. So you do know you're going to get a test on January the 30th, and that's pretty set at this point. All right, questions about the syllabus. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the first week materials. We're going to start with simple harmonic motion. All the Zoom lectures that I am doing will arrive in the current lecture videos. So those are definitely the videos I want everyone to watch. And if you open it right now, you'll see the folder is empty, but that's where this video will end up. I try to have all the videos uploaded by 24 hours after the class. You guys will probably have yours uploaded by the end of the day, but I have an evening class, and so it's usually the next day before I get those uploaded. But depending on my schedule, I usually like to have those uploaded within 24 hours. I have historic lectures for reference. So you've got in here, I've tried to title them, and I've also given you some dates so that you know. I also provide video notes, and this is what I was talking about. So this will have like this laboratory instructions. This will have the video notes for that video. This will be the video notes for that sound video. And if you open those, you'll see the time stamps for where you might find something in the video. Give it a second, it'll think about it. Yeah, so it gives you the key characteristics, it gives you the timestamps, and it gives you some video notes for that. And I will tell you that those video notes are AI generated, just so you're aware. But these are all my historic videos that I think are pretty good. So if my current video doesn't accomplish what you need, then you can go back and look at that. I also have provided some study guides. So these are study topics, lecture notes, estimates. I've tried to provide those as PDFs so that you have those. These are supporting videos. They could be somebody else's YouTube video, videos I've used for elsewhere, example problems. I've done a variety of the different problems over the years, and I've done videos on those specific problems. So those are there. I've done pictures, GIFs, all kinds of things. Those are, again, all of these are just helpful items that will help you understand a particular topic. And I usually will point those out in lectures as we get through and say, hey, this is a good one to go look at. But you do have all of those supporting examples. And then your assignments will be in a folder titled Assignments. And you've got the getting started and pre-work assignment in WebAssign. And then you've got your quiz that's going to be on the sound and the week evaluations, and I will get those dates updated so that people don't get too concerned about that. But that's how the modules will work. The places that if you're going to spend time, I would have you spend time in your current lectures. Look at your study guides, and all of these are supporting things, and then there are the assignments. So we're going to jump into WebAssign real quick. If anybody's got questions, feel free to put them in the chat. There we go. My poor little Surface has issues. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, it's because I'm coming in under the student one. Hang on. Let me go back. Hmm. All right. Okay, when you finally get registered into WebAssign, this is how it will look when you come in and view as a student. And it will show you your current assignments. So there's your current assignment with its due date. If you scroll down, you will get your e-textbook will show up here. If an assignment gets past due, it usually will roll up behind, but that's how you will see your assignments in WebAssign. It does have a communication feature. I do use the Ask Your Instructor. And please go ahead and use that because it takes me right to your question that you're having issues with. So it's very helpful for me. So you can use that as well. But this gives you what you're going to see when you get into WebAssign. All right. I think that about covers it for us today. Um, any questions, concerns that folks might have? All right, I'm going to turn you loose.